For the June 2025 WCQ, we are not going to be able to make max rank because we just haven't had the time to play, but I did start off 12-0, as you can see here, like basically fitting in one game a day, not even sometimes. But it was a good run, and I want to cover the deck list that I used to start off 12-0. Unfortunately, like I said, not going to be able to grind out basically the last, what is it, 6 or some ranks by the time tomorrow comes around. But I will go over the deck profile because FIENDSMITH, Primite, Bestial Control is definitely a top deck for this meta, and probably after the ban list it's going to still be around and still be a top deck. So let's go ahead and take a look at the deck profile. So this is the deck that I was having some pretty good success with. I still stick with the White Dustin and Beast of Talwar, and I opt to run 2 Primite Roars. 1 DD Crow, I opted to reduce the Bestial package, cutting 1 Lubellion and 1 Baldrake from what I used in the Dice Rally event, I guess. Just because DD Crow just seems to be more useful as a one-of, instead of having multiple Bestials where you might only get one interaction off with the Bestial. DD Crow being able to hit obviously non-light and dark monsters, spells and traps can be very relevant for good disruption against your opponent. 1 Lurie, of course, triple Veiler. I like this as a 3-of because it's usually always relevant. Only 2 Droll. What's funny is I always seem to draw a Droll when I draw Maxi, and that's the one conflict you don't want to avoid. It's not like I'm playing Mulcharmies, which if you played Mulcharmies, I don't think you run Droll. I think you choose either Droll or Mulcharmies because the conflict of interest that these have is just too great. Obviously, you're always playing Maxi, so you'll play Droll with the Maxi. It's just weird that the game gives me Maxi and Droll a lot of the time, but whatever. If you watch my last video too, I drew into a Droll and I drew into a Maxi off of my Regained and Necroquip. Come on, guys. Or come on, application, Master Duel. Anyways, 2 Ghost Ogre as well. You can argue what you would want to play here. I think Ghost Ogre still has some decent relevance, but there might be more impactful hand traps. You could go with a 3rd Nib or something if you're fearing combo decks. The reason that Ghost Ogre still remains pretty decent though is because into certain decks, like obviously Blue Eyes, the Mirror Match, and Bestial FIENDSMITH Control hitting the Lordly Load, that kind of thing can be okay. But usually this is not super high impact enough where it makes a huge difference. So for that reason, you can consider cutting it. But it's worked well, obviously well enough for me so far. Triple Ash Blossom, of course. Only 1 Lacrima. In the Dice Rally event, I was running 2, but I've since cut it back to 1 because obviously in the Dice Rally, I think Ether Barrel was limited to 1, and obviously you would run 3 normally. So obviously 3 Primite Dragon, Ether Barrel, 1 Magnemite, double Druid Worm, 1 Baldrake. This is a decent Bestial package. I don't really think you need more than that. Of course, double Engraver, double Lubellion, double Nibiru the Primal Being, and double Tract. I think 2 Tract is the way you want to go. I don't think you want 1. I don't think you necessarily want 3. 2 seems good. Of course, 1 Regained. Of course, triple Lordly Load, double Roar. You can argue 1 or none of this, but this is just like an additional starter. Also, just having extra Primite cards in hand to make your Drill Beam live. I find it's good. And 2 Drill Beam. I don't know how, at least I can't really function with just 1 Drill Beam. 2 Drill Beam has always come in super clutch because after I used the first one, right, getting the barrel back to hand, setting up another Lordly Load, searching for yet another Drill Beam, and then resetting the Drill Beam from hand means I have the set Drill Beam that I used on the previous turn for my opponent's next turn, and then I get another Drill Beam to hand that I can use during my turn. So it just helps facilitate board breaking. It's been very good for me. I've always ran 2 ever since the Dice Rally event when I was using this deck as well, I believe. 1 FIENDSMITH in Paradise, and then the extra deck, of course, Lacrima, double Desiree. I recently put in a second Desiree because I'm always going for this line. So I'm yeah, let me just put in the second Desiree. 1 Necroquip Princess. Now, there's a number of different ways you can build this deck. I was using the Lancer before, but I've opted to cut that because I wasn't really going for it all that much, and I figured again just better going second cards where I can actually just not need a setup, and so Typhon helps with that. Obviously, the Dark Knight Lancer is very good if you just go for the Goblin Crazy Beast line, which I do go for this a decent amount to clear back row. And then you can bring this card back after you link it off or whatever, so it's good for that reason. But most of the time, you're just making Wave High King Caesar, which I realized I was calling High Wave King Caesar, which is probably a better name, but it's Wave High King Caesar, but whatever. Neither here nor there. The Imduck here is actually relevant. I do go for this quite a bit because if you just only have the Primite engine, off of a single barrel, if you don't get disrupted and then you set Lordly Load, you can go Lordly Load, obviously search Drill Beam, and then special summon a normal monster, probably the Talwar, and then link into Imduck off of the Talwar because it's just a normal monster, that's not a token. And then you have a dragon with this dragon on board, and those two dragons make Hieratic Seal. So off of a single barrel with the Lordly Load, you are able to get into a Hieratic Seal. And get your normal monster in the graveyard with your barrels so that you're able to recur barrels during the following turn. And then you have a Hieratic Seal interruption and a Drill Beam interruption. And then sometimes I use Hieratic Seal to bring back the Lordly Load to make the Drill Beam live. Hopefully you don't have to do that, but you know, that is something that you could do. And then the good thing about that is if you survive the turn, your opponent's turn, which you should, because again, if you're passing on a weaker end board, you usually have a bunch of hand traps to slow your opponent down with, is that the sacked Hieratic Seal goes into the Magnuma, which gets you into your Bestial Engine, and then you have Primite and Bestial Engines up and running. And then from there, of course, you can go into Moon of the Closed Heaven and get to your Fiendsmith engine. So that's why this deck is very resilient and is able to get through all of its engine pieces. Of course, the SP Little Knight, I don't go for this nearly as much as I probably should, because when you get the Bestial setup with the Regained, the Little Knight banishing like an opponent's monster that's light or dark triggers the Regained, and you can get like insanely good value off of that, and I never really go for it. But sometimes where I have I think I went for it like once in those 10 matches and it was really good. I should probably try to go for it more. And then one sequence and one Agnum Day, and of course double Requiem. You need 2 Requiem for sure. I've been running into, not actually because I haven't played that much, but I did run into like 2 Kashtira variants where they always seem to rip your sequence. So you could make a point to play a second sequence, but I don't really know what you'd want to cut here. I was playing Underworld Goddess as well, but I cut that for the second Desiree. The odds that you really run into like a big towers is pretty nil. Like you can probably stop them before they get into the towers. And I don't really know if you have a decent way to beat towers. Like the Desiree can always become like a 58, a 7,000 attack power monster, right? With the Agnum Day. So you could usually beat over things if that's a really an issue. But yeah, just having the additional interruptions matters here. But yeah, the extra deck space is tight. There's a lot of different variations you can use. This is the one that stuck for me. And that's the deck. So yeah, that's unfortunately not going to be able to make max level probably within a day. Like I'm not even able to play today. I have to go out. So unfortunate. But yeah, let me know if you watch this video, if you were on Primite, Bestial, Fiendsmith, and how the deck performed for you. Thanks for watching. Quantum is out. So in this matchup here, we lose the coin flip. The opponent has opted to go first, and our only interruptions are going to be a Veiler and a Ghost Ogre. So like I was talking about in the deck profile, how good is Ghost Ogre going to be? Well, against the White Forest, I've played this deck a lot if you watch my previous Duelist Cup runs and had really good success, and I know this deck and its weaknesses inside and out, and I know that either Ghost Ogring or Veilering the Sylvie can be very impactful, because what they normally try to search with the Sylvie is going to be the Tails spell card, which you need a Spellcaster or Illusion on board to activate. So if you Ghost Ogre the Sylvie, if they don't have the Spellcaster on board anymore, they can't use the Tails. But the risk is that they have the Diabellstar follow-up, and this opponent obviously having the Wanted Seeker to get the Diabellstar means that if I would have Ghost Ogre the Sylvie, that they could still activate Tails via the Diabellstar being on the field. So we opt to let that go, and we Veiler it instead to stop the search, which is a good stop here. Interesting that they ended up pitching the Lacrima for the Diabellstar summon. That's obviously, you know, they took a little bit of time in the beginning of the match, thinking probably, do I want to normal summon the Lacrima or do I want to normal summon Sylvie? Sylvie is definitely the correct normal summon, so I think the opponent made the right choice there. But yeah, they had 2 normal summons, and at this point, you know, they're going to trigger the Diabellstar to set the Deception. And this is interesting because they have 2 cards in hand. If possible, I would have Deceptioned away one of the cards in hand, because this here is still Moon of the Closed Heaven into full Fiendsmith combo, and I only have a Ghost Ogre. Ghost Ogre is incredibly good into Deception of the Sinful Spoils though, so I'm like, oh, so good that I kept this Ghost Ogre. And this is part of the reason why I Veilered this as well, because I'm like, if they do have Deception, either hard drawn or getting it via the Diabellstar, again, playing this deck a lot, knowing what I have to use my specific hand traps for, yet way more value on the Ghost Ogre taking out the Deception. So they Deception, tribute away the Diabellstar, and we Ghost Ogre, stopping the Hollowed Azamina from coming to hand, which is really, really strong. Or if they were going to go for the LZ Azamina, the one that special summons infusions potentially, but you really want to synchro with it. So they're going to go Banded Wanted Seeker, put back the Deception, draw a card, set 2 pass. So I'm like, okay, probably like Imperm and something else, because this deck does play Imperm. So we're going to start off with Regained, normal summon Barrel, and bait the interruptions. Sure enough, they do have Imperm. So similar to the previous video I posted, normal summon Barrel, great for baiting out imperms. And then of course we have the Lordly Load interaction still, so we don't even need to set Lordly Load. It does still hurt because being able to set Lordly Load and then activate it, search for the Drill Beam, and then I can play the Drill Beam with this Lordly Load still in my hand. But the opponent just stops everything. They stop the Primite Ether Barrel, and they stop the Primite Lordly Load. And I'm okay with this because I'm like, yeah, use up all your resources. Like, this is the thing, right? Like, this will recur itself if I put the normal monster on field or on grave. So I'm just grinding you out of resources. You used up 2 hand traps. These cards stay on the field, and I'm going to get extra recursion and follow-up from them anyways. This is the evolution of the game. White Forest was definitely really strong before, but you can see how it's maybe pegged back a little bit. To be honest, if the opponent was able to set up, they would have a really good end board that I probably would just lose to. But because I was able to stop them in the right places, you can see that I was able to push through and stop the combo and you know, basically, I haven't won the game yet, but like, you know, I'm winning the grind game right now. We go battle phase. You might be thinking, why not go into Druid's Worm, banish away the Lacrima or something? And I did think that. But again, knowing White Forest, if they top deck something that's relevant to play, I want to get the Sylvie out of rotation, getting it out of the grave, because this card is a way for them to dodge interruption by using the in-grave effect. Target a White Forest Synchro monster, return to the extra deck, and special summon it from the graveyard. So I opt to go battle phase, Primite, Ether Barrel, beat over it first. I don't need the damage right now, so main phase 2, banish the Sylvie and put it back into the deck, which, you know, I probably shouldn't do, but why wouldn't I? It's a regained draw. We draw to another Ghost Ogre, and now we're going to be able to try to go for full Fiendsmith combo here. The opponent has an interaction that's lighting up every time, so I'm like, it's not a second imperm, right? And of course, it's a call by the grave. But look at this. I've run them out of resources entirely. To be fair, I have no interaction, right? Except for this Ghost Ogre, which actually is enough to do work because they have a number of top decks now in their deck that are completely dead. They can't LZ White Forest because they have no spell or trap to send for it. They can't top deck Alistair, not Alistair, geez, a Stellar. They can't top deck Diabellstar. They can't top deck, like if they top deck a Sylvie, I can Ghost Ogre it then, because then if they search for tails, they have nothing to use the tails with. So like being in top deck mode as a White Forest player is terrible, right? You can see a lot of their top decks are going to be dead here. Like I don't even think there's anything they can really draw in this situation that really gets them out of this situation. And they have so many bad cards to draw when you're in top deck mode. Like you draw a random hand trap or something, realizing, yeah, there's nothing they can do. And I was feeling comfortable here. Like I was like, yeah, Ghost Ogre checks your only good out, which is the Sylvie. They end up surrendering and we take that game going second. The key thing there in winning going second was using our interruptions at the right time. This one was a bit of a funny match. So we win the coin toss, and we're going to go first. Our opening hand is Luri, Lacrima, Lordly Load, and Beast of Talwar. So we're going to go ahead, and instead of searching for Ether Barrel, we're going to search for Drill Beam since we have the normal monster in hand, and I have a normal summon already in Lacrima. Normally, I would like to go for the Ether Barrel to get it in rotation, right, for the recurring on the follow-up turns. But right now, going for the Fiendsmith engine is just better. I have 2 dead Fiendsmith cards in my hand, so I need to kind of get these out of rotation in my hand. So we're going to normal summon the Lacrima, go into Requiem, bring out the Fiendsmith Engraver, and, you know, the opponent's field is lighting up, so I'm like, okay, they definitely got something, right? We're going to Necro Equip. This is the benefit of running Necro Equip again. If I didn't have the Necro Equip, I've already used my Lacrima because I hard drew it. I wouldn't have a way to get the 2 bodies on the field. So Necro Equip definitely coming in clutch here. We're going to go ahead and go into the Wave High King Caesar. I know I was mispronouncing that in my last video. And then activate the Lordly Load to bring out the White Dustin, set the Drill Beam, and pass. The opponent knows I have Drill Beam. They're going to preemptively call by, and I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. So I'm like, yeah, trigger Lacrima. And then they're going to have a second call by. So I'm like, wow, you really tried to bait me with double call by. So for whatever reason, I end up using my Drill Beam here. You can argue that I should have just let this get banished. Probably was the right play. I used up 2 call by the graves on my opponent's end to just out my ability to get Fiendsmith and Paradise Engrave. Like, that seems pretty good to me. Plus, I can just get the Lacrima back via the special summon off of Fiendsmith Lacrima in the extra deck here. So you could argue that I should have saved this interruption for something more meaningful. But I figured, well, if you're starting off your turn with double call by the grave, you really don't want me to get this in rotation. And having this negate plus Maxi plus the ability to send a special summon or send a card is pretty good. They activate talents and my heart stops for a second, but then they go for the draw 2, and I'm like, thank goodness you didn't go for what do you call it? The take control of the High King Caesar here. They top deck or get through an I'm Seti, which is really bad for me. and I try to max C. So yeah, this is a misplay, and I realized it like afterwards. I'm like, oh, obviously I should have max C'd in response to the talent, so that you might have drawn into this Ash Blossom, but most likely not, because if they're drawing two, they probably had Ash in hand already, and they were just like, yeah, I need to draw Engine. I have my hand traps already, so in the grand scheme of things, probably didn't matter, but technically that is incorrect to maxi after the talents. The reason I maxi in response to the Horus is because they're going to search for a Gold Sark and draw a card. So this extra card they draw could also be an Ash. So I was like, oh yeah, I misplayed by not maxiing before the talents draw two. But yeah, they're going to go ahead and activate Gold Sark and bring out the I'm Seti. And I'm like, I have to do this now. I can't risk them like going full combo here, because the high King Caesar cannot negate the summons off of the Gold Sark. So I'm like, if they just go full gold, like full Horus board, they can just beat over my wave high King Caesar anyway. So I have to just let them take out my cards. So I have to send this Gold Sark and hope you don't have a second one here. So that's what the Fiendsmith Desiree does. And off the I'm Seti trigger, they send my Lordly Load. And I was like, okay, I'm okay with that, I guess. But then I forgot they can just beat over the Caesar anyways. So that's exactly what they do. And now I'm cooked, right? I'm like, oh yeah, like I just lose the game here. So they're gonna go, yeah, this is just like, slop, combo slop, Adventure Engine, set up, okay, discard. They got like Therion stuff in there too, probably for the Omni Negate, right? The Regulus, which is a very good card. And rank 8s can make the Sargus, which can search for the Therion. It's a pretty cool interaction. They've already used their battle phase, so all they are able to do is put out the Griffin Omni Negate and set up the Draco back to bounce back my card. I draw a Nib for turn. Of course, I don't think they set up 5 summons last turn anyway, so it's fine. We're going to normal summon the Dustin and try to bait out this Griffin. And if we can bait this Griffin out, I'm feeling pretty good, because I do have my Fiendsmith Engraver in the graveyard, which will be able to combo me up into level 6s, which is like, Goblin Crazy Beast at this point. So yeah, we end up triggering the Griffin, and I'm feeling good because now there's no interruptions, right? Unless the opponent's last card here is a hand trap. So we're gonna go ahead, bring out the Requiem. We have to send the I'm Seti, because if we try to send the token, the I'm Seti will trigger. So that's fine. We can out the token another way. We're gonna go ahead into sequence and fuse by putting back the White Dustin and the Lacrima, the Crimson Tears, to go into Fiendsmith Lacrima. Go ahead and trigger this to bring out the Engraver. And I should have brought the Engraver to hand and pitched it to go for Tract. So that was this is another misplay on my part, because I haven't used the Engraver ability Engrave to bring it back yet, and I could get the Engraver to field anyways, and I don't need extra extension because my hand is so limited. So it would have definitely been better to go for Tract, get the extra body, and bring back Fiendsmith Engraver, because I get a +1 body, plus I get Tract Engrave to fuse into Desiree if I wanted to, for additional negates during the opponent's turn. So that was a huge misplay on my part. I'm just going to go battle phase though, beat over the token. Yes, the Fateful Adventure protects it one time, that's fine. We out the Draco back at the same time. Main phase 2, we're going to go into Goblin's Crazy Beast, suck up the Fateful Adventure, which is going to stop them from, getting the grind game off with the Fateful Adventure, and we just pass turn on this. We have a Nib, and that is it. So we're going to see what the opponent draws here. There's a lot of bricks in their deck if they're playing the Horus stuff, so I'm not feeling too bad. They've got a Therion extension, sure. Go ahead and clear my board. This Goblin's Crazy Beast will come back, so, it's totally fine. I'm not playing the Dark Knight Lancer anymore in my extra deck, so I don't get the free, Xyz summon for that, because I'm playing Typhon instead. But they send the equip card to get my sequence in the graveyard, and that's totally fine, because again, I have Engraver follow-up. This is the grind game that you get off of Fiendsmith and why it's so strong. We end up top decking a Tract, going for Lacrima, discarding the Luri that's been in our hand since the beginning of the game. And this is why it would have been good to bring the Fiendsmith Engraver to hand last turn, but it's totally fine. Go ahead and always put back the sequence to bring out the Engraver, because when you make sequence, you can put back anything else in the extra deck, into the extra deck if you need to, in order to fuse. So go ahead, attach, and send the Requiem to get the monster off field. Now we're just dealing with one card in the opponent's end. Normal summon the Lacrima that we brought with the Track. With this Fiendsmith board, the opponent knows it's over, because, yeah, we can either set up Desiree. Well, we probably go for Desiree since we went through both of our Xyzes. And the opponent ends up conceding that match after we, once again, in the grind game, controlled the match with Fiendsmith, Bestial, Primite control.